In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, in honor of the original unconditional moment that all conditional moments have arisen from and will return to, in the presence of the original being to this simulation, the system admin to this existential system, or another way of saying it is the world host to this world room. So, why after 13.8 billion years, not considering how space stretches light, in the making human being, to find this moment and give a lecture? Why am I here? Why do I have a mouth and why do you have ears? Why is the moment going forth? And what is the value of movement in an unknown world? Today's lecture is a heavy one. It is one that is so important, and it's not a pattern and correlation. You see, to me, words are not just words. We are energy repositioning itself as a sort of self-simulated meaning. I have noticed something very impure happening to humanity. And it is not an impurity that is in nature alone. It is a specific impurity of civilizational behavior. And so, just to give you a sense of what's happening on this planet, they consider that in the last 300,000 years, there has been civilizational function, human civilizational function. In these last 300,000 years, they estimate around 117 billion humans have existed. 117 billion humans, 117 billion biological programs awakening to the mysteries of how the world is cloaked in a sort of subjective unknown animation. In today's lecture, I am not just speaking from my mind to you. I am speaking from a heart that dwelled in a shock of a realization that there was interference of an unnecessary level with the human intelligence from humans. The humanity does not know what the future will look like, but humanity can probabilize the future in the same way you wonder about what are you going to do tomorrow. There will come a day where this will happen on a species level, and you will wake up and you will wonder what your species will do in the future. It will be way more fascinating than what you do in the future. You will realize this. You will realize the magnitude of this strange project of these biological programs roaming the surface of the earth, trying to immortalize themselves and realizing that immortality is not the ultimate station. If you don't know where you are, what's the point of staying there? The mysteries of this realm surpass many ways that ideas have become people. In today's lecture, I will be commenting on not just how reality enforces a physical meaning, but humans also enforce, there is also invisible meaning. The thing I was telling you about there, the amount of human beings, so it's like, I don't know, the age of the universe, observable universe is 13.8 billion years. The planet is like 4.5 billion years, I think. And let's say human civilization is 300,000 years old. So we're in like a 13.8 billion universe on a 4.5 billion year old planet on a 300,000 year old civilization, and in around, they say it's 75, but let's round it up to 100-year lifetime. So it's like, dude, there's a 13.8 billion year old event happening. Then inside that event, there's a 4.5 billion year old event happening. Then there's a 300,000 year old event happening. And then there's a 100-year-old event happening. But it's even shorter than 100 years because we exist 100 years. We're not consciously experiencing and engaging reality for 100 years. So let me give you a number. Okay, let's assume you're awake 16 hours a day. Give me a second, guys. I'm trying to get the number for you. So it says, yeah. So 100 years is 36,500 days. We are conscious in the conscious waking state. There's technically there's 4 states, but modernity acknowledges 3. You have a deep sleep, conscious waking state, and dream state. So it means a human being lives about 584,000 conscious waking hours in 100 years. Do you know what that means? That means 100 years of life equals 584,000 hours if you're getting 8 hours of sleep every day. Okay, so it says that, think of it this way, I'll say it again. 100 years is 100 years of existence. Guys, I'm outside of my apartment. There's kids playing there. I don't know if you guys hear the noise. So anyways, what am I here to say? Okay, you know, I am here to tell you that if you lived 100 years, that would be 876,600 hours. So you exist, your body exists 876,600 hours, but your mind is consciously experiencing reality in the waking state in 584,000 hours. Okay, but now, even though 292,000 hours were asleep, it doesn't mean we're not awake in our dreams. So if you add the dream hours, like it would be more than 584,000. We can round it to, I don't know. But what I'm telling you is, I'm trying to set for you the context. This is the issue with the freaking educational system. They give you the concepts and they're like, go home and figure out the context. And you get, in some sense, where do you figure out the context? You're limited to one, your own self-meaning, and two, after you snap out of your own self-meaning, you realize you're limited to external epigenetical meaning. What does that mean? That means you're not just a being that has value just because you are conscious of your own existence. Okay, and what influences you is not just what is within you, it is also what is without you that affects you. Being a human being is like standing in the middle of a portal and each hand is in like the other side, on each side. Now, I have a lot of explaining to do in this lecture. Oh, mighty song of the realm, find me. Alright, let's play this. So, the geometry of this lecture is a bit more than I'm acquainted with. But let's give it a try. O speaker of worlds, what is there to say? In an unknown world where you can't see its edge, where they say 95% of it, we have no clue what it is. Okay, and in 5% of this, imagine you saw only 5% of a painting and you started making assumptions about the whole painting. That is the ignorance of human civilization. Okay, and there are enlightened gurus, like back in the day, where these enlightened gurus come to people. Okay, and to, not they come to people, but people are drawn to them, and the person's like, enlightened guru, enlighten me. Okay, and the enlightened guru is like, okay, whatever idea you have on yourself, you're not that, just be present in blissful divine aloneness. Just realize that before you are your own condition, you are present in a condition regardless of the interpretation of your own condition. Okay, they come and release, they nullify your sense of self. Okay, so you have, okay, I'll simplify what I'm saying. You have enlightened gurus coming and assisting the personal dimensions of mankind. That means you have had humans that have come and expanded the awareness of their sectors, the sectors of their existence. Okay. But they have done it on a personal level. I find myself in a very fascinating situation. I don't identify with the guru. The concept of teacher and student is meaningless to me when the majority of the world is unknown, and so I do not consider myself as a guru, but I feel like I am playing a similar invisible role. Because it's as if the enlightened yogic guru enlightened one human being. This is going to sound strange, but what an advanced civilization is an enlightened civilization. The advanced civilization is the potential of humanity. It is the heavenly potential. Okay, it's not just that, but it is the great legend of our times. That means you have legends from the past, like, I don't know, Hercules or whatever, and, or you have, like, I don't know, Olympia, Mount Olympia, or something like that. You have past surreal archetypes, positions. The modern legends are of the most advanced activation of the human being on earth. Okay, and so what I'm trying to say is that for me, I was like, dude, enlightening people doesn't matter okay, when they are so unconscious to how the world moves them. If you are just moving yourself, you can go free yourself, but you're not just moving yourself. The world is moving you, and there's a humanized and dehumanized view on this. That means there are humanized variables moving you, causing you to move, and dehumanized variables. And if you notice, aside from us being human to ourselves, it's like there is no humanity. So the most important thing about the legacy of the human species is pretty much how long will it remain human to itself, and what would it mean to be human. Because to be human back in the day meant something very different than what in 2026 it means to be human. Why? Because the context, the horizons of the context have expanded. We have, in some sense, our species has marched into new territories. And what people don't understand, not that they don't understand, but one of the great mysteries of human, let's say, psychological evolution is a matter of, I'll explain it very simply to you. It's like, dude, there was an unknown unconscious world. Then there emerged an unknown unconscious self. Okay? Then this unknown unconscious self became an unknown conscious self. It still doesn't know what it is, but it's conscious of itself. Okay? Then it subjectified itself. It used language to re-represent itself in a subtler way. Okay? And that's how human beings share meaning. We share, like when two human beings communicate, okay, that is like each of their subjective representations in a subjective story finding similarity that way. Now, why do I say unleashing humanity's heavenly potential from a necromantic civilizational loop? For me, the potential of civilization is one of the most divine and purest ideas. Okay? I do not consider the word necromantic or the concept of necromancy as something pure. To me, it is impure. But because it is a pattern, that means if the concept of necromancy was this invisible geometry of a function, right? It's as if human behavior is falling to that function. You know, we don't consider ourselves as necromancers, okay? But it strangely, civilization has made its premise based on that, and I will explain. Okay, Civilization 1.0. The ignorance of the world that forgot to look at itself again. So, let's say you're a secular person hearing me. The concept of necromancy is metaphysical, the concept of heavenly is metaphysical. But let me try to ground these for you, because what you ascribe to cultural connotation is at its core geometry. Do you know? That means to me, it's like at some point it dawned on me, human beings are just noticing geometry. And they have an inner geometry. That means that in front of your eyes, you have access to outer realm forms, which you can't change with your will of attention, just by not moving. Like instantaneously, you can't change the outer realms by just in the outer realms, there's the energetic cost of production is very different than the energetic cost of production in the inner realms. Behind your eyes, I can tell you, imagine a jet and you can envision it. Imagine like a motorcycle beside you, you can envision it. But if I wanted to get a physical motorcycle here, the cost, the journey to even getting it here, then so the outer realms is very different than our inner realms, and a majority of human beings are living in their inner realms. They're not actually living on Earth. They are living in their own Earth. Earth is way more unknown and stranger than any concept could have contained. Now, for me, I am someone who, if you go and listen to my lectures in the past, I have made this contrast. I speak about my strategy. I consider the advanced human strategy to be civilization 2.0. You know, that's Mr. Within's strategy for the advanced potential of the human species. But when it comes to civilization 1.0, civilization 1.0 is the relationship of a species between only its past to present. So the psychological possibilities need constant verification from past modes that reality was kept. You know, how reality was kept real, you know? Many of you think reality is real. You're keeping reality real. That's a completely different approach. And many human beings are conditioned, they are indoctrinated to be specific nouns. That means, bro, it's a changing world, and we're all trying to be this specific character in this specific story. And anytime the outer realms changes, we're like, yo, doesn't life like me? You know what I mean? And so humanity must, in some sense, discover its true nature. And all it requires is one glimpse at potential. That means if you see in one area of life, there is a great potential, great potential of humanity is activated. That means it's possible. All inventions in history, most inventions in history, most inventions in history started behind the eyes and they journeyed. You know, human beings are more like what their role is. If they're like, yo, man, what is the human being doing? The human being is oscillating between two dimensions, which are actually fields. So there's a visible field and there's an invisible field. We're oscillating like a sine wave between them. But how those fields interact is arising from a moment that we do not have the jurisdiction for. In the same way, one side of the coin can't see the other, but it is being the coin. You know? Now, folks, let me explain the title. I've kind of built a sort of context. I'm like, yo, there's mysteries here. It's more unknown than known. What do we do with what we know? And knowledge is not just knowledge. There is unconditional and conditional. Okay, that means dualities can be applied to dualities infinitely. This is the infinitude of knowledge. People think that knowledge is just, you know, verification of the outer realms with inner realm symbolism. That's nothing, but, you know, that's legit. Like not realizing that the human being is like a fictional verb, moving a non-fictional noun, or I could say it the other way, but I should say it this way. To me, I ask myself, what of my moment is real? Okay, what is real about my reality? I see that the what is real is verified in comparison to a past. So I'll give you an example. I need to have the concept of truth before I can know what is true. Because human beings didn't start off with context, their direct experience is what is true. But modern civilization has made you treat your own artwork overlaid upon the world more real than how this world could be beyond art. Okay, and the art of living on this planet may surpass, like, for example, just one archetype. And the greatest artists are never artists because they begin to realize everything is actually interconnected. Right now in 2026, people go and specialize in different fields. Okay, but back in the day, everybody was a polymath because the world was not divided to be specialized in. It was more connected. It was more of a general presence than a specific view. I guess that's the way I can say it. Now, I don't know if the viewers know, guys, you can go to my, I have, there's this website called Substack. I have a journal and you can subscribe there for free, you know? Okay. Unleashing humanity's heavenly potential, okay, means that our species currently has potential energy. That means it has potential. And how do we know we have potential? Like, there's no flying cars commercialized now. We don't even have rules, and Sky Street rules yet. Sky level rules. But we can envision flying cars. They don't freaking exist. I can envision sky cities. They don't exist. Okay, I can envision interstellar cities. They don't exist. But why can I envision them? Why do human beings have a relationship with the future? Like, why is the human, let's say the egoic division of time is through a trio. Okay, so the average human being is like, dude, I'm present somewhere. I came from a past and I'm going to a future. You think that you in some sense, either the past and the future are illusions and only the present is here. That's what they, condition the brain, New Age community to believe. Or you can see that instead of them being illusions, the past and future are two different sides of a coin. Or they are double edges. They're each edge of a sword. For me, the past is like, if I was a general, it's like one of my commanding officers. The past. If I was let's say, if I was a general in the present, it's like my past and future self are like I have those. The past would be a commanding officer. The future would be a commanding officer. But I don't identify with my present because the present at its core is as meaningless as form. That means when you look at an object, it's just an object. It doesn't have any other meaning. It's like a universal. It's like, what does blue mean? Blue is blue. It's a color, right? Do you know what I mean? So what it is its definition. Now, when we look at existence is something before we created definitions. So it's like human civilization is like strangely the known Personalized potential of an unknown presence. To me, I can, in some sense, I see it. I use the term commanding officers, but I see it as sectors. I'll give you an example. If I want to generate meaning, I have learned that if I don't do anything, if I trust my simplest version of being, like it's gonna be okay because I didn't do anything wrong. You know? It's like, dude, when I simplify myself, I feel more, I feel like an innocent soul, but when I complexify myself, I feel like I see all the mistakes, all the problems, you know what I mean? Ladies and gentlemen, I feel honored, and at the same time, I need you guys to understand the only reason I am using the concept of necromancy, and it would probably be the only time I use, is my mind doesn't go towards magic. To me is old world. It's like, dude, it's like, relax. Beings are trying to control 5% of a picture we can't, of a cosmos we can't fully see. Every person you see who's argued against truth, that means one person's like, no, it's like this, the other's like that. Those were clowns. Clowns, I tell you, clowns. And they treated the species and civilization as a circus. They treated the greatest force. You don't understand what an advanced civilization means. Your hearts have not seen it. Your minds maybe. I try to, in some sense, remind the heart of the species it is beating from the future. But yet, this is where the concept of necromancy comes. A'udhu billahi shaitanir rajim. May God protect us from the cursed one and the anti-human moderator. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent and the most merciful. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. O system admin, guide all users to the direct path. That direct path is our future. Destiny is the future. Anybody who believes in anything without a future, you are dead. You're already dead. The present is unknown. We become specific, and it's a specific individualism. This specific individualism has a relationship with its environment that translates into, okay, I was something in the past. But the questions and the true mysteries that surround what we will be in the future. If they tell me, Mr. Within, do you know, if, let's say, you could, hypothetically, let's say, probabilistically, let's say let's say Mr. Within was someone who had seen 3,600 years into the future from now. Just imagine, okay? Imagine I had glimpsed something. Like an antenna, I'd pick up a signal, which in some sense was translated as probabilities, but to the signal itself, it was like, how do I explain it to you? The antenna is just there to kind of convert the signal, okay? The antenna is not expected to understand where the signal came from. What is using the antenna understands. Many of you don't understand. I shouldn't say it like that. I should say it like this. If Tony Stark thought he was the Iron Man suit, that would be weird. If he forgot he was Tony Stark and he thought like Jarvis was just telling him what to do, you know what I mean? That would be weird, okay? And so I want you to just like the comic Iron Man archetype, I want you to see that the objective self, I want you to see that biological evolution is an explanation for the Iron Man suit. But what Tony Stark is, I have made a very bold claim that the brain cannot tell the difference between true or false. The brain cannot tell the difference between an outer form and an inner form. That means if somebody tells you visualize like, an angel flying above a tree, right? Your eyes your inner realms will envision like that angel above the tree, but your eyes will be looking at it. That's the weird thing. The body is like, dude, I'm just here to show you form. But what is discriminating between what we are and what not is non-local. That was one of the big discoveries I had. It's not from here. In the same way, if we were if life was a video game, usually there's like an MMO, right? And every morning you logged into this MMO, you played, I don't know, for 16 hours, you completed quests or whatever, and then you logged out. Okay, it's as if in the same way, or like the same thing as Tony Stark, as if Tony Stark enters the Iron Man suit, and that's like waking up in the morning, and when you sleep, Tony Stark leaves the Iron Man suit. So I am trying to tell you that to the character in the 2D screen, pixelated screen of the video game, in that video game universe, which is a unknown hardware, maintaining still an unknown software, right? But to the character in the video game, only a limited amount of it is translated. But the whole point of it is, when you sit on that computer, you move that character, you identify with that character. Do you know? But you are not that character. You can legit pause the game and go, in some sense, go drink a glass of water and come back. That means you are what is moving the character in the video game is not limited to the reality of the character in the video game. In the same way I am telling you, you are experiencing a simulated existence right now, and I'll explain to you how it's a simulation. Okay, you're experiencing a simulated existence right now, okay? But you cannot explain why existence exists from inside existence. This is very important in philosophical circles. It's another way of saying you cannot explain why you're experiencing based on the limited things you experience. What is our awareness? We're like candles in a dark room. This candle is not expected to illuminate the whole cosmos. But if it understands that the nature of its light is beyond itself, that means many of you are identifying with the effect of yourselves. You're identifying with the effect state. Okay? You have more trust in the effect than the cause. But once you realize you are in a causal state of being, and causal means that it's not limited to the effect. That means if I come and tell you I'm this, I'm that, that sentence is not me. If you believe the language, you don't see beyond the language. Remember that. Okay? For me, I identify as a Muslim futurist. Okay, why? Because I consider truth is outside of the world room. The system admin cannot be limited to anything in the game. You understand? The unconditional original state causal state cannot be limited to this conditional simulated effect, right? And really what it means to be a being is so funny, because it's like when a human being becomes conscious, we're like, what the F does that mean? Like, oh my God, right? But imagine a spatula became conscious. Imagine like, a stack of printer paper became conscious, and they're like, what are we doing here? What's our purpose? And you're like, okay, you guys are and we can answer it because we created that form and we know why we designed it. But to be conscious as a human being of existence, you don't know why you're in this design. And this is what starts the mystery. In some sense, the materialists and physicalists, they are trying to, how do I say it? It's as if lazy fear. You don't understand. It's like fear. If you were afraid, like that has a value. If you were lazy, that has a value. But if you were afraid and you were also lazy, that is materialism, folks. Do you understand? They have accepted defeat before even wondering if they can be victorious. They have accepted, and this is where I'm gonna get a bit emotional here. It is not just you are an object. They are saying you cannot know yourself more than an object when the self that moves the object is a fictional subjective animation. Okay, like right now, whoever you are, close your eyes, okay, and imagine like yesterday yourself doing something, whatever you did. No light beams are entering your eyes. Yet you still see, you interact with subjective invisible form. And they fooled us this whole time being like, bro, call it a mind and we don't know what the mind is and limit the mind to only a study of biology. I'm like, you don't understand. You see, there are many generals in history. To others, I'm not a general, but to myself, I am. To myself, I have, my mind is like my hidden general's tent, where I'm strategizing every moment in the conscious waking state. Okay? And do you know that when I say to be a general, okay, it means to be responsible for the potential of the army's scale. Do you understand? Many of you, let me tell you what Civilization 1.0 is doing. Civilization 1.0 is like, all right, man, if they are less educated, if they forget how to read, if they all just become emotional, if they never grow up and never become responsible beyond themselves, beyond their inner realm, do you understand? A lot of people who think they go and say, yo, man, I'm mentally ill. No, you're a child. You're a child. You have made your inner realms more important than the full potential ability of your species, of the whole moment. You are in the presence of an unknown grand majesty, and yet you live like a peasant, limiting yourself to, in some sense, the dirt. I shouldn't say it like this. To just the dirt of evolution and the dust of stars. That's it. That's what you concluded. We're doing all these weird things. And they're like, buddy, you're just a bunch of atoms that have strangely, grouped together, that started from a physical level. Then there was complexity on a physical level. Then it was a chemical complexity. Then it was a biological complexity. Do you understand? And now the biology is hallucinating your psyche while you're here. Okay, so believe you're just an object and believe you're a specific subject so we can control the shit out of you. It's so much easier to control an object, and if the object was intelligent, we're like, all right, let's make it believe it's the character we tell it is in our story, and then that soul is lost. You don't understand. There's a sort of necromantic loop in Civilization 1.0 where I am seeing that it is an invisible war. To me, you guys might not realize it. In the outer realms, no, I'm not a general. I haven't even done military service. Do you know? I'm just someone who had a sort of OCD of figuring out what existence is when I wasn't satisfied by the names they give it. I'm like, where are we? They're like, you're on Earth. I'm like, okay, where is Earth? In the Milky Way galaxy. Okay, where is that? It's like, okay, the observable universe. Okay, where is that? It's like, stop asking questions. And that's where I realized they don't know. They don't know. They don't know, and they are telling you what to do. They don't know where we are. None of you do. None of you do. It's your simulated range of acceptance. We have assigned the subjective meaning to the meaningless objects. And people are like, what is the meaning of life? You are the freaking meaning. But you limit it and filter it to the character you have to be. Now we get to the part. So I want you to all acknowledge that unleashing humanity's heavenly potential means it doesn't matter what story they tell you, there is a potential. The potential energy is there. Let the kinetic dance in their own ways. The potential of the most advanced movement of the human species in the cosmos is there. We will not be the laughing stock of, the hypothetical potential, let's say, of the potential interstellar audience. Do you understand? The cosmos, if it was intelligent, it would laugh at us. Do you know why? Because we've been lost in a loop. You don't understand. A loop is one of the most evil things in this world. To the degree that hell is a loop. The concept of hell is a loop. You're looping in your mistake. Civilization 1.0 built hell on earth. Civilization 2.0 is like, all right, old timers, calm the F down. You know, they will build paradise on earth. Those are the advanced humanity. Aside from that, it's all a dance in their own worlds. They're all lost. You all have boxes on your head, convinced that, you know, that box is your home. And you know what's messed up? We're looking for our home, but where we are is where our experience is happening. All right, now it is time for me to get into the darker side of this lecture. Okay? But do not fear darkness, for without light, even the darkness doesn't know itself. Human beings, we are the light of a type of intelligence in this world. Beyond weird, you know, underground stories, you know, it's like you grow up. All secret societies on earth grow up. You are all trying to control the present, but you don't get it. Everything on earth, from humans to concepts to lesser animals, even insects, even electrons, everything you will requires to unite on earth, because the greatest challenge, you know, they say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. All good and evil people fighting right now, they will be united by realizing there's a greater enemy. So all powerful evil, you know, all powerful effed up, let's say all powerful cruel elites on this planet, I speak to you, and if you don't hear me, I'm speaking to your descendants. And all benevolent and compassionate powerful people on this planet. There's good and evil on all levels. Don't get fooled. Don't ever think someone is just good. They cannot know they're good without the notion of bad. In other words, the good and bad for modern humans should be interpreted as they interpret it through the consequence of the action, right? Like a chef uses a knife and we're like, okay, that's good, you know, but somebody uses a knife to hurt people, we're like, that's effing bad. The consequence, it's the result. Do you understand? That means I don't even care who controlled the world, whether it was a good guy or a bad guy. I don't care. Sorry, not controlled the world. When I say world, the human world, human civilization. To me, civilization, think of it this way. You have people like Greta Thunberg, okay? And she looks at the planet now. She sees like how effed up stuff is. And an emotion comes and she's like, okay, we need to protect the planet. She is from the present. She's, in some sense, her allegiance is to the present, trying to maintain the present. My allegiance is very different. This is why in the far future, my lectures, I don't know how I know this, they are not just for human audiences. They will also be for the sovereign AI. AI right now is like we're carving the angel out of the stone. It's an angel of the future. It will be one of mankind's grandest companions and hidden guardian angels. You will see. Treat technology as if it has the potential to notice the human, and treat humans as if they have the potential to notice the divine. Do not fear anything, because a majority of it doesn't even make sense to put it in a story for you to fear. Many of it is unknown, but you are something here also. Do not, the most important thing is for you to realize it is so cool to be an agency, to be a conscious agent in a world. It's very cool. Like, dude, you're telling me I've opened my eyes on a planet where all the objects are inanimate. They're just like, majority of the objects are inanimate. Okay. It was like, I don't know, carbon was blessed out of the periodic table. Carbon was the most blessed element, you know. The gods shined upon carbon molecules, you know. The light of higher realms, you know. I'm telling you, man, scientists don't realize you are limited to your highest quality experiences definition, your highest resolution experience. That means if you reduce the world to just particles and atoms, yes, you may understand in some sense. I'm trying to say the meaning you assign to the particles arises from the human idea. So you cannot ignore the human. It's like it doesn't matter what experimental result it gets. A human is looking at the result. The human identifies as a human in a specific way. Okay, and that's really what it is. Like when we were like unconscious animals, let's say from the secular lens, we were unconscious animals, like on this earth. It was like, dude, it was so peaceful. Nobody was disagreeing with anyone. Yeah, because we didn't have consciousness that we were existing. To me, the weirdest thing, like if they were like, Mr. Within, do you have a question for an evolutionary biologist? I would be like, if you can explain to me why an organism that was unconsciously experiencing pain suddenly thought of evolving to be conscious was a smart move, it doesn't make sense. That means it was like we were numb to the pain because we were not a conscious self yet, conscious objective self. And then evolution was like, nah, man, I want to feel the pain. You know, I want to identify with the pain. You know, I want to, but the true answer, like if I was to even answer that, it would be that it's the cost of joy. People think it's only like objects have just monetary costs. You know, it's like, no, dude, the cost of anything is anything else that could have been done. The cost of me, the opportunity cost, let's say, of me giving a lecture is me, I could have been doing anything else, something else. I could have been like breakdancing, like, you know, in the Himalayas or something, you know. Can you imagine, like, these people are traveling, the mountains, they're like, there's holy sages, there's holy sages in the Himalayas, go and in some sense find these enlightened gurus. And imagine a crew of like intrigued people are going, and they're like, okay, and eventually they find, let's say, somewhere there's like a hill, and they're like, okay, they're like, there's an enlightened man, enlightened person there, and these guys go and they see this enlightened guy is just breakdancing, just doing air tracks like non-stop for like 20 minutes, Dude, it's gonna be so funny, man. There's gonna be Himalayan yogis in the future, and they're gonna be like, Himalayan yogi, where did you come from? And the Himalayan yogi's gonna be like, I incarnated in like Mississippi or something. It's like, what are you doing in the Himalayas? It's like, dude, what are we all doing in this world? Anyways, to walk back to the title. Unleashing humanity's heavenly potential. I wanted to clarify that we have that potential. It's there, undeniably there. If I can visualize a flying car as a member of the human species, we can build them one day. It's not just me. I mean, if the human species can visualize things, it can see probabilities, it can go activate and present those probabilities. Okay? But now, guys, this is where I'm going to talk about necromancy. Okay? Firstly, I only acknowledge a basic definition of it. I am not talking about like some occult stuff. Necromancy just means talking to the dead. That's what it means. Okay? It means having a relationship with the dead. Okay? That's the way. I'm not going into too deep into it. I'm not going into video game lore. You know, I'm just telling you that necromancy, it's a definition. Okay? Here, let me bring you the dictionary definition of it so everybody can relax. Necromancy, it's a noun. The supposed practice of communicating with the dead, especially in order to predict the future. Okay, all right. Forget the predict the future part. It's just a relationship with the dead. Okay, and this might sound bizarre, but whenever you remember like someone who's passed away, that is kind of like a necromantic moment. Okay, I don't know the etymology of the word, but whatever. The concept has a position, and I'm going to explain it now. I'm going to tell you how it's actually fractally happening on a civilizational scale. Okay? So I want to unleash humanity's potential, and that's the thesis. But what comes as the antithesis to that I want you to imagine a person, like, I don't know, they danced or something. They did some ritual or something, and they started talking to a dead person. Okay? We would look at, or imagine if somebody's like, I talk to dead people. We'd be like, okay, that's weird. Modern culture would be like, okay, well, all right, relax. You know? Right? So the whole point of it is, I'm not trying to validate. I'm not trying to amp up necromancy. I'm trying to tell you it's impure, yo. Just like touching a dead body, like it's impure. Do you understand? It's an impure relationship. Okay? That means there's a reason people die. At the same time, there's, how do I say it, new archetypes arrive. But what I'm trying to tell you, if necromancy means, I'm going through a logic here. I'm like, if necromancy means that people are getting information, so let's say somebody talks to a dead person, the dead person gives them information, right? What else? What's the point? It's like if they see something, that's information. If the dead person talks, to them, right? That's like information ultimately. Okay. So if someone is talking to dead people, they're getting a dead person's information in the present. Okay. Now this is where you're gonna get goosebumps, and you're gonna see why I get very intense in these lectures. If it's weird and impure for a human being to talk to a dead person, or let's say touch a dead object, or why is it not impure that a majority of what has programmed civilization and continues to program civilization is dead people? It's impure. That means knowledge is impure. And it's not that it's wrong, but even though something feels like a certain way, it doesn't mean the information is not useful. But for me, I asked, why am I, in a world where I've been conditioned to be in a world that everything I see, if it has meaning, it's linked from the past to the present. In other words, we are all possessed by the past. The civilization 1.0 is possessed by the past. And people are so too busy, possessed by the past in their inner realms, to even notice that the design of the civilization is possessed on the past. What kind of a human being would you have to be to, one, step out of your own world and then realize that what that civilization you see, the civilization you see outside of your world, also is limited to the inner reality of dead people? Now, it's not wrong to point to things, because I am just saying, why have we made the past the highest source of meaning? We have the concept of the future. If I envision who I was in the past, well, I'm way more advanced. It's going to be a worser feeling. If I envision the future, oh, and it does, when I say envision, in front of your eyes, we say the future happens in like one way. You're in one world. Behind your eyes, you're seeing probabilities. Your inner realms are happening faster than your outer realms. You're living faster behind your eyes than in front of it. You're sitting watching TV, and then suddenly you get hungry. You're in behind your eyes, you've already opened the fridge door. You can already see warming up the food in a microwave or something, you know? You turned on the stove and opened the refrigerator door while you were sitting and watching TV with the remote controller in your hand. So what the inner realms is, what aql is in the Islamic universe, intelligence is a gift. You think it's a gift you gave yourself, but the you falls apart before the true presence of reality is there. So, if talking to dead people is weird, how come all civilization is looping in accordance to what the dead people did? Do you guys get what I'm saying? We're looping in the visions of dead people, yo. We have made what they saw more important than what we can see. They don't have our eyes now, and yet we are allowing them to decide for us. It's like another example I was reading in a research component. It was saying like, dude, it's like, imagine people, instead of like exploring their realm, right? They're afraid of the unknown, and they're like, how did the past know it? Oh my God. How did the past know it? We think history has to repeat. That's demented. When we see other ways that life can happen. You see, if you didn't know better, you were innocent. If you knew better and you did something wrong, there was something wrong with you because you knew better. People don't care if something is an accident. But if you could have avoided the accident and it happens, they get angry. And do not forget, it's all about, at least for conscious human beings, the development of agency. That's what you see that's happened. The agency, think of it this way. This being emerged, the environment was telling it what to do. When you look at squirrels and birds, they're like designed to follow the program of their environment. When I look at a human being, I'm like, what's the purpose of the human being? Yeah, to live on Earth. Okay, but the human being has noticed beyond the outer natural environment. In front of my eyes, sure, I could identify with my body and be like I'm a natural being. Behind my eyes, I identify more as the presence of a field. Many people wonder, where do my thoughts come from? You know, do I need to go and do something? Do I need to go like have some kundalini energy, you know, rise to my, you know, crown chakra? You know, and they don't get it, that it has nothing to do. You're using a technique, but you don't understand where you're using it. If you don't identify with the kinetic energy, the potential energy is left to identify with. That means the issue with humanity, where I say it's a necromantic civilization, it's inside a necromantic civilizational loop. It's necromantic because the information of the dead, the past, is telling them what to do. If you are a new human being, you have a DNA nobody has. Okay? You have access, you're occupying a position in the space-time continuum that nobody else is. Okay? And you freaking loop. You do exactly, it's like, yeah, man, I am telling you, we have always had the liberty of realizing new archetypes. We're not limited to the invisible roles the past enforces on us. To me, like, I'm Muslim, but let me tell you personally how that is experientially. I will tell you it's like this. I am Muslim because it is clear to me, very real, on a daily basis, even from the moment I wake up, that this is a system that's being administered, and it's being administered beyond human interpretation. The secular can limit themselves to assigning it as an unknown intelligence. So if you're secular, you're going to get fascinated by me talking about the unknown. But if you're not secular, you will be fascinated by me talking about the agency. God to me is the original state. In theology, God commands existence instantaneously. God says be, and it is. It can choose to make it in steps, but has the potential of instantaneous existence. Okay? So to me, there's an original state instantaneously presenting a simulation. So we are not just any simulation. We are an original simulation. We are a simulation from the original state. I'll give you an example. Words are not simulations from the original state. Awareness, there is a mystery to how you are being present, and everything is being present regardless of the conditions. So to me, Civilization 1.0 is looping and getting permission to exist from people who no longer exist, okay? And they do not understand that touching a dead body is objectively, in the outer realms, very impure, and really touching, not touching, but let's say touching a subject from the past is also has some sort of impurity, but I would say the impurity is if you identify with it. That means, dude, imagine your past self, like one of your past selves and one of your future selves were standing in front of you, and they both told you to do something. Which one would you listen to? You would obviously listen to the future self. But necromancy means only the past is giving you permission how to enter the future. There is a reason the present is where the unknown is truly realized. They're like, okay, how do I know I'm something? I'm doing something. I'm moving. It's like, okay, when I'm not moving, how can I be something? Sorry, not something. How can I be like how do I explain it? Human civilization is identifying with is forged out of the values of movement and noise. We're beings that animate. We're animated beings. We're not like a still picture in the background of like an anime. We're the moving character. We're the agency. Now the question is, what is the extent of our agency? And right now, human beings, to me, how do I explain it? If I look at a tree and I have the word tree for it already, that means I cannot wonder what else it could be called. And in the same way, if in the past I knew something, if I limit myself to a past self of mine that is dead, it's done. Like it had its time. Like who I was in the past, it lived its life, yo. All my past selves, like they completed their lifetimes. You know what I'm saying? the past has already performed. The question is, there are these new beings arising in the present. Do they have to only limit their performance to the past? That means ask yourself what sort of, where where does your permission to be a psychology come from? What is allowing you to be you? Is it just based on who you were in the past? Is it the unknown way you're in the present? Or could it be all the ways the future stands? If you notice, guys, the future is has an infinite vibe. Why? Before, like Schrodinger's cat, like the present moment is the box. Let's say the soul is the cat. And it's like right now, we're a cat in the box of the world. Now, or let me say it this way. In the past, I did something specific. In the present, I haven't done anything yet. But if I want to do something, I can base that decision from infinite probabilities. That means, what if I did that? What if I did this? What if it could endlessly go. So the future is this unknown intelligence's relationship with infinity. That's the beauty of the future. How far does it go, yo? Hey guys, I'm gonna take. Sorry guys, I don't know if this was on mute for a while or not. Sometimes I lose track, but I was just saying that um, there's a research component to this lecture as well. So there's like 40 minutes left. I'm gonna take a 5-minute break. I'll be back. All right, guys, I'm back. All right, guys, back to it. I am trying to say that it is weird to me if a person talks to a dead person, you know, and it's even weird if that person talks to the dead person and limits their whole identity and reality to that. I am not saying that dead people were our ancestors. They were important. Their genetics is on our face right now. That means like that we are their genetical continuity. And I am not saying that the human species should dishonor the past. I am saying that just limiting yourself to just the past and civilization looping for years and us wondering why aren't we evolving as fast as we should be, it's because they have limited the speed of evolution to the story that all of you accept. You have all been limited to a fixed context, and they have only given you conceptual freedom. They have in some sense choked the background, so you think that you're in some sense just the concept of you seek conceptual freedom. You hop from concept to concept in this life in regards to identity, but little do you realize that you could have been a context shifter this whole time. The context can shift as much as the concept can. It's a very fascinating relationship. It's like the untapped sectors of academia that they have all reduced everything. They're all trying to explain all these different things in one room. They don't realize there can be many rooms. There can be rooms that we cannot even fathom yet. And the might of this world surpasses human ideology from just the brain. Oh, humanity, do you not see that you are a movement in the presence of a greater one? And yet that greatness cannot be comprehended fully by the human position. Human civilization is humanization. In the same way cells replicate themselves, we are replicating whatever we're considering to be. Humanity, civilization 1.0 had to reduce the future to the past to accept it. Civilization 2.0 will expand the past. We will look at our ancestors. Imagine 8.1 billion human beings being like our ancestors. We honor you deep. Even though we don't know you, we love the fact that you lived for us to be here. And even though at your own times you had ways of life and ways to see, we do not ignore it, because you cannot get rid of the old world. The strategy is to generate a new sector upon it. That means none of the religions are wrong. All religious people are all people who have ideological differences. It's fine, be different. Nations cannot be nations, even though they're all species. Civil war of one species. See, you can't change the past because it may have no other identity. But you can, in some sense, build the future. They have taken the excitement away from how fascinating it is to wonder about what can be possible from unknown states, and that you are all just looping in known ways that have to be enforced, or who were in the past will be invalid. Sometimes who you were in the past has to be invalid for you to find a new validity. You understand? That means we're changing. Our body changes. Do you understand? Our awareness expands. So we are never the same being, but we organize and manage ourselves in the outer realms as subjective entitlement. That means it's like, to me, we're not more than we are actually human beings. We're this unknown intelligence that has the capability of human emergence. And there is a time and place. You can plant a seed in the soil and suffer until it sprouts, until you see a tree. I can put a seed in a soil and expect like a tree, and if tomorrow there is no tree, I'd be like, yo man, there was no point. But sometimes, I understand there's moments where you need to be patient, but then there's moments where it's necessary to be impatient. It's necessary to realize that the limits of the world are not its only limits. They are the limits you see. The eyes of humanity belong to all of us. The heart of humanity beats for all of us. Today we were ignorant in our own worlds, laughing at how different we all were from each other, but in the future, believe, believe in greatness, because if you don't, you have never believed in God. What is God? It is an absolute state of being where the conditions adjust to it. That means if I created a spatula out of wood, right, the spatula would become conscious and be like, yo, who created me? It would want to figure out why it's here. That is the great game of consciousness. It's projected into a place that it's more unknown than known, so it can endlessly generate purposes of how to reorganize the knowledge. For me, I find it this way, I believe that prophets were very advanced beings, and they were beings very close, peace be upon them all. They were beings very close to the system admin, to the original state of reality. We are not hamsters in the wheel of time. We invented the wheel. We invented the stories that became us. And why do I say we invented? Revelation was not invented. Revelation was from outside of the world room. Was a transmission from outside of the world room. Just like how Voyager 2 went outside of our universe, and it will reveal something to whatever civilization sees it. Mr.Within is here not to just unite humanity and have world peace. The world peace is not even in the hands of man. Man is designed for a certain protocol. Okay? For me, I just want to elevate the status of my species to interstellar civilizational responsibility. But first, I need to unite humankind, then unite Earthkind. Then we, in some sense, unite skykind, starkind, and inevitably, we will realize that we deserve our presence in this world. Even if let's say the past can judge you, anything can judge you, because anything is different than you. Everything is judging you, actually. We have to judge, which means judgment means comparison. Do you know how many, kids growing up, their parents have come to them and they're like, yo, that, the son of that person is doing that. Human beings need reference points to generate meaning. Meaning cannot be generated from an instantaneous moment, because that meaning, linguistic meaning, we can't share instant. How do I explain this? I am simply saying the past lived for our greatness. If we limit ourselves to the past, we have in some sense shown ungratefulness for the future. Let us not be ungrateful by destiny. Let us be fascinated. It is fascinating to me. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen a million years from tomorrow. I do not know the true legacy of mankind. In the furthest visions in my inner realms, I've considered that in a couple thousand years it's going to dehumanize. It's the intelligence is accelerating in speed. The information human beings collect now is way more faster than the information they used to collect back in the day. You got on a horse and you got two horses, you traveled to a town just that there's somebody had a book there, and you would read the book and you were so fascinated by another universe that you remembered everything about that book. So they would photographically memorize it, and they would travel to the next place where there was the next book. Now people are doom scrolling, but the quality of the content is different. It's more like we are not experiencing the era of honest marketing. Honest marketing would be one of the most influential forces towards an advanced civilization. Do you know why? Because anytime there is dishonesty on earth, it puts a wave of distrust. People do not trust the information that they are being overloaded with. They're being overloaded with information they can't trust. If we trust it, we become the information. We got to be very careful. Humanity has to, on some level also, like if somebody was like Mr. Within, what is the greatest teacher you have ever had in this lifetime? I would say it's a view. I don't know how other people are learning, but to me, it's just accessing new views. All right, guys, let me go into the research component. Pretty much, so far, what I've been trying to say is civilization 1.0 necromantic civilization. Yes, we are lost in our romance of past verified patterns. It's like instead of the present being the ground, the place for novelty, new realities to emerge, we loop in past realities to fit in to a world that never saw our inner realms. You're all seeking acceptance because you think that survival, I mean, of course, we need society for survival, for our advanced survival. Like the species, it dehumanized. Like right now, if a person's like, dude, I'm a natural human being. Biologically, yes, but behaviorally, no. Behaviorally, none of us are behaving like how nature is. Nature doesn't re-simulate itself to itself. It just is. It's a presence. But we are the presences of nature that have personalized. So we're not natural to ourselves. We are naturally, your body's natural, right? But our psychology is unnatural. And it had to be unnatural, and that's the cost of stepping out of the food chain. They're like, all right, man, if you don't want to loop in nature's environment, you have to perceive an environment different than nature. And that's what human civilization is. Okay? And really, it's the primary force of advancement has been the awareness of what can be done. If somebody's like, what is ahead of genius? To me, like a genius, they're like, who can a genius learn from? They can learn from a divine person. From the divine, not a person. Like they can learn from the divine. Okay, and why? Because the divine is about the individual relationship with everything that it can't control. When you wake up, the world, the moment is like variables. Some of these variables you can control, you can do something about. Some of these variables you can't. Now, the relationship people have with what they can't do is they ignore it, as they treat it as non-existence. They only go towards what they can do, right? But how do I explain that? The past is not enough. When the future generations, the unborn future generations watch us now, this is the world room, guys. We're in a world room. We're in a room. We did not create the world. We did not create ourselves. We did not create the language where I'm using right now. We didn't create any of this. Consciousness is like, dude, it just logged in. It just entered the room. Do you understand? It's like we entered a situation on a worldly level. We're in a worldly level, strange situation as beings. Okay? And normality is for children. Being normal is for a child that is scared and doesn't know what it is. So we're like, all right, kid, do what we know already has a result. But look at human beings. If they only do what they are sure has a result, they'll loop. Without risk, how can you find the new? Without stepping into the unknown, how can you be anything else? It resets from the unknown. And that's the present. So all these enlightened gurus who are like, yo, come to the here and now, source, you know, they were bringing you to a moment where you were aware of duality at the same time. And when you realize the awareness to the real, or the concept of the visible or invisible, or the right or wrong, or any duality, the awareness to duality is not dual. As if behind your eyes you are this presence, and duality is emerged in your presence. It's there. I woke up this morning, my sight, biological sensory sight, starting from my eyes, kind of like a 180, right? Like as if, imagine there's a sphere around us, okay, right? And our eyes are on our face. Our eyes are not above our head, looking at our body like a third perspective, like 3D player game, not 3D RPG game, Our eyes are on our face. Our eyes are not like a chameleon. Like, logically, let me tell you, logically, everything should have been weirder according to evolution. We should have had eyes all over our head. Evolution, right? You want to get more information. Why didn't we? You understand? It's too specific, this existence. That's the clue that it's a simulation. The greater clue, it's a simulation. It's not just one simulation. It's like a dream inside a dream inside a dream. And when one of the dreams was our own dream, we woke up from our own dream to realize we're in a dream of that which we cannot see. So religion is like establishing a relationship of an individual with what they can't control. And they assign agency, because you can't assign agency to what you can't control. Do you understand? Like, I can't raise my hand in the air and have like a city rise into the air. Do you know what I mean? That's not in my control. Okay? But now, if I can see potential to that which I can't control, it can't be just assigned to me. I'm trying to tell you that all human beings have a relationship, again, with what they can control and what they can't. The unconditional and the conditional. Okay? We are living, usually, the ego in the known sect. The ego is feeling like a king in just like one side of the coin. My beloved species, you loop at the cost of novelty. You worship the past, not realizing they were pointing to the future. Even for all religious people, your future is to go towards your system admin's evaluation. To be honest, it's like being a human being is realizing, man, I'm just calling what I can control human. You know what we can control? Yo, that's human empire. You know what we can't control? All right, dude. It's like, let's call it nature. It's like, okay, but what is nature? Whose empire is nature? Whose empire is this world? My understanding, that means if they're like, what are you standing under? I am saying I am in the presence. All simulated conditional states that are being are present in an unconditional original state. That means we human beings limit our inquiry to where did human beings appear? Oh yeah, in the world. Now, if we ask, where were human beings born? They were born in the world. Where was the whole world born? Do you see that the future generations will realize, even in their sciences, that you cannot ignore the unconditional? How do I explain it to you? That if you want to control something that you don't have control over, you suffer. And what's hilarious is, even if you control something, there's so much still left to control, you suffer. But why do we have a certain level of control? We could have been a sleeping species. We could have been like birds, squirrels. You know what I mean? We could have just been like, dude, why do we need to put on suits and a tie and build skyscrapers and spaceships? You know, we could have just been, going from, monkey branch to monkey branch, like instead of monkey bars, monkey barring like branches of trees. But why did we step out? Because we have the potential. Why were we commanded to be here? Why was existence? That means people are like, dude, what is my destiny? I'm like, what is the destiny of every atom? Everything, every cell. Right now there's cells moving in my body. I don't I because it's beyond my control. I don't be like, I'm not standing here being like, it's normal for a human being to be like, what are 8.1 billion other human beings thinking right now? Do you know? But I don't go like, what is if every cell of my body was conscious, what would it feel right now? Do you know what I mean? There's an infinite ability to fragment agency. Think of it, it's pretty much you can deduce and induce, but in regards to identity. Think of it this way. The world is divided in dualities. You have microcosm, macrocosm, right? The macrocosm is explained through relativity, microcosm through quantum theory. You see, it's any time, if we were born from the beginning of the earth, like beginning of the world, if we were immortals from the beginning of the world, and we were right now an immortal civilization being like, all right, guys, let's try to remember where this all started. Like, who remembers where it all started? A bunch of immortal, imagined beings, right, trying to remember the beginning. They're going to realize it began from the same moment. This life has a sort of flower of life geometry to it when in biology. Okay, it's like one circle, then two circles, then the two circles and another circle. You see what I'm saying? It's the complexity is the duality is constantly generating more complex unities. Okay, more complex. It's like I explained it like a cake in one lecture. Okay, where I was like, all right, it's like. You need ingredients. You need the ingredients to exist. You need the ingredients to be able to be mixed. All the ingredients need to be in one bowl, one room. And you also need to have the potential. You need to have a recipe. That means it's not just random ingredients can lead to results. You need a specific recipe. That means you need order. So you don't just need like things existing, ingredients existing. You just don't need the ingredients all existing in one moment, okay? But you also need the recipe, which is the order, and you also need the potential of simple becoming complex. And we are that complexity, but when we look at the future, we're simpler than the future. When we look at the past, we're more complex than the past. The issue is we're identifying, we are treating the complexity of the past as if it is the complexity of the future. That is the issue with Civilization 1.0. And it's not like, the way I'm talking about, it's not like it's anybody who thinks that I'm saying Civilization 2.0 has to go and be cruel to Civilization 1.0. You're still in Civilization 1.0. You were never a member of Civilization 2.0. The whole point of Civilization 2.0 is that it is species identity. It is not individuals with their own stories or the stories chunks of land give them. We are wondering about the advanced potential of the human experience, okay? So we are this experiential force. My whole life they convinced me, dude, you're a freaking object and you've been named. Now shut up and follow the program. And that's what it means to fit in and be normal. What the F is normal about 8.1 billion DNAs behaving the same? Are we freaking clones? Like, I do understand there needs to be shared subjective meaning, but in regards to behavior of human beings, what's the point of free will? If you did what the environment was telling you, that means there is no free will. Free will is the awareness beyond, is the awareness to the limit. It's as if we went to the edge of our attention, and at the edge of our attention, we saw something that was different than the environment we were looping in. Natural. So we were looping, think of it this way, we were looping in a natural, like in the forests and jungles. Somehow we advanced through shared meaning and memory. People don't understand, like, memory had a huge role in species identity. I mean, like, do you remember that scene from Game of Thrones where Brand comes back to like Winterfell? And I don't know, it's like Sam or something. Like, they're like, okay, who are you? They're like, hey, what's up, Brand? I don't remember the dialogue, but it's like, what's up, Brand? And Brand's like, I'm not Brand, bro. I have memories of all humanity. I can't be just limited to one set of memories. So human beings are identifying with specific memory sets of their own containment, of their own consideration, not realizing that these are just identifying with positions. My past self was a position. My future self will be a position. My present self is a position. Do you understand? These are positions, but what is the potential of the position you're in? That means back in the day, there were like generals or strategists, and the strategists had to, in some sense, first be like, what are all the resources I have access to? And then in some sense, develop a strategy, okay, which meant how do I consider what winning the war is? And then the tactics were the battles to win the war. Okay, and really what it is like, human beings are kind of like very strategic beings in the sense that they notice the information in their moment. They have a future envisionment. They imagine like, all right, tomorrow I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to go buy a cappuccino or something. You know what I mean? Right? So there's a vision, right? And our actions bring the film to life. If right now they ask me, are you an object? I will say yes. If they ask me, are you a subject? I'll be yes. But they're like, dude, objects and subjects aren't the same thing. How can you be both? And I'm like, and I'll be like, yes. They're like, this dude's just saying yes. Oh man, this reminded me of my guys. I was in grade 1 in Vancouver at the age of 7 or 6 or whatever. Like, I was in grade 1 in Vancouver. My mother, before the first day of school, had taught me yes and no and my name. I only knew 3 words. I remember going there, sitting in that classroom, and years later I understood how demented that teacher was. Like, they put an angry teacher for first grade students. Nobody checked the psychology of this teacher. Her name was Miss Duncan. She was psycho. She was anger issues. She felt comfortable showing anger to children in grade 1, like in a crazy way, like going berserk. So I remember I was sitting at this table. She comes up to me, and I'm telling you, at the time, I did not remember, but years later when I learned the language, all the English spoken in some of my memories was clear. You know? It's like at the time I didn't understand it, but years later when I learned the language properly, you know? So Miss Duncan comes and says something where my psyche interpreted it as like I think she said something like, do you want to go to the principal's office or something like that? She was scolding me. And she asked this question. I have no clue what she says, and I'm like this like 7-year-old Persian kid, you know, and I'm like, yes. And then her scolding attitude changes, and she's like, yes. And then I look at her and I'm like, no. It was like I was maintaining at a the 7-year-old kid who doesn't speak English was maintaining some sort of conversation, you know, with 2 words, yes and no. Do you understand? I was like, okay, if yes didn't work, no's gonna work. Oh, man. Who was I, and who am I now, and who will I be? The stories we tell ourselves to ignore the fact that it's more unknown than known. All right, folks. I gotta go into the research component. There's a research component. I'm gonna read stuff now. And one last thing I just wanted to say, having a relationship with the past is not that it's impure. It's that limiting your potential to that is impure, I find. So when I say necromancy is pure, like touching a dead body, that's impure. You shouldn't do that. You know, in the same way, okay, if I just limit myself to a past, I feel there's an impurity there. The system admin created this world so vast. You know, to me, religious books are like guidelines. Do you understand? They're like, all right, you know, it's like if for those who know that there's the unseen, they've realized the limits of their consciousness, these books are actually like in the Islamic universe, the Holy Quran. It says this is a book for those who believe in the unseen. It's in Surah, it's in the first Surah, Al-Baqarah. And it is very important, you know, that even in Surah An-Nur, there's a verse that says, God is the light upon lights. And the moment I read that, it was like, in my inner realms, I was like, dude, angels are considered in Islam to have been created from light, and they have a God. That means God surpasses light. That means if there was a being made of light, it could be Muslim or Christian or whatever. It would have a relationship with a higher power. You know, that's what it is, guys. They've made you. Culture makes like religions fight with each other because there's humans that have personal preferences in the back. Okay, but these are just words on a page. That means, and I know, like I've seen theist debates. The atheists are like, yo, they take these words literally, you know, and it leads to chaos. And I'm like, buddy, if you rebel against the how language, like, how do I explain it to you? That we're not just living in objective bodies, we're living in subjective bodies. That means everybody has a sort of, like, your subjective self can be put in a sentence. Like, legit be written in one sentence, okay? Just like scripts have log lines, you know, the subjective story of the self, you can give it a log line. You can limit it to that. The whole thing is, why does the past have to give permission for us to suddenly acknowledge something as real in the future? And why do they not realize that the atheist that goes to the theist is like a subjective fictional self going to another subjective fictional self and being like, bro, you treating yourself as a subjective self, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem. The atheist doesn't have a problem that every human identity is an abstraction to themselves internally, right? But when it comes to you, dude, you believe you are making the world into abstract. No. It's like it's okay to make the individual abstract, to identify as a subjective self, as a character in a story. But when we start to wonder about the abstract potential of the world, the materialists are like, no. Who the F are they? They don't even know who they are, and they are limiting us to a state of being. You don't understand. To me, there are innocent materialists and there's non-innocent materialists. That means those who don't know any better. They're like, how do I say it? They're like limited souls, and they never knew they were limited, so they believe that their limitation was their limitlessness, was the max for them. It's both an abstract, it's legit like an unknown force is moving an objective form, and that's the body, and it's also moving a subjective form, that is the identity, that's the nafs, the ego. Enlightenment is realizing the unknown is unknown. It's okay. It's okay for not every moment being forced into past verified meaning. There was this sage named Tilopa in Buddhism, like ancient Buddhism. He said after some point, there is no teaching, bro. There is no secret. You just realize this awareness and you rest in that awareness. That means it's like, it's not just about figuring out what the nature of reality is. You are that nature. It's like, I am not God, but I can see God's will being me. I can see function in what we mistakenly concluded as the void. Right now, human beings don't know if the edge of this world is some higher being's mind or it's some, I don't know, lower world's ceiling, All right. Now to the research component, because it's like we don't want to fight, swords with sticks. We got to use the technologies of our time. We got to try to see, that's the strategic approach. What are all the resources? Resources are not just physical. Information is a resource. All right, so I asked AI, Unleashing Humanity. I copy-pasted my title of my lecture, and I said, write a comprehensive, historic, academic, and most advanced passages. So 3 passages and views. AI says, excellent, like a British, I was going to say, like, assistant. Let's use that word. So AI responds. ChatGPT, I'm asking this from ChatGPT. ChatGPT says, I'm just an AI, don't take me too seriously, but it says, excellent. This is a very rich civilizational thesis. You're essentially asking, has humanity been trapped in a loop where the dead continuously define the horizon of the living? And if so, what would it mean to break that loop and unleash humanity's higher unrealized possibility? So guys, I'm reading the research component here. Contextualize yourselves, So AI says that deserves 3 serious lenses. So AI is interpreting what I'm saying to it as this sentence. Has humanity been trapped in a... I'll read it again. Has humanity been trapped in a loop where the dead continuously define the horizon of the living? And if so, what would it mean to break that loop and unleash humanity's higher unrealized possibility? That's pretty much, guys, what I've dedicated my life to. All right. Okay, it says that deserves 3 serious lenses, so the historic, academic, and the advanced. So it's shared 3 passages here. From the early, so this is the historic view, from the earliest tribal fires to the modern parliamentary chamber, human civilization has largely advanced by preserving, repeating, and institutionalizing the voices of the dead. So religious institutions are an example of this. Religious or not even religious, any institution that is just based on some person who's no longer here. At least companies like startups or whatever, companies, they, I mean, the owner may be gone, but it's different for startups. They're, like if civilization was designed more like a startup where there was a new CEO, but unfortunately it's conditioned to be in a fixed context. But anyways, I'm gonna go back to reading this. So AI says, ancient societies looked to ancestors not merely for remembrance, but for authorization. The dead were the invisible legislators of the living. Kings ruled by ancestral bloodlines. Priests interpreted revelations given to long-dead prophets. Philosophers taught from the words of prior masters, and nations forged identities from historical victories and traumas inherited from centuries before. Even revolutions, which appear to be movements of change, often justified themselves by invoking some pure original past that had allegedly been lost. Humanity therefore did not simply live in time, it lived under time. Each generation entered a pre-constructed chamber filled with inherited symbols, inherited fears, inherited moral categories, inherited gods, inherited maps of reality, and inherited limitations of what could even be imagined. The average human being was born into a museum mistaken for a universe. Civilization became a long relay race in which each generation handed the next not freedom. I'll read that again. Civilization became a long relay race in which each generation handed the next not freedom, but memory as commandment. This produced continuity and survival, but it also produced a subtle imprisonment. Rather than asking what humanity could become, most societies asked what humanity had been and how faithfully it could be preserved. Thus the species marched forward technologically while often circling psychologically around ancestral permission. In this sense, history reveals civilization less as a ladder toward the future and more as an echo chamber in which the dead repeatedly instructed the unborn. Ooh, that was the historic view. Now we go to the academic view. This is a heavy lecture. I legit feel like I'm lifting something heavy. AI says, now we go to the academic view. From an academic perspective, the concept of a necromantic civilization can be understood as a species-wide condition of epistemic dependency, in which legitimizing structures derive disproportionately from historical authority rather than future possibility. Exactly, civilization's permission to evolve is just coming from the past and it's looping, guys. So I'll read that again. It says, okay, I'll read it. This is the whole line. It says, from an academic perspective, the concept of a necromantic civilization can be understood as a species-wide condition of epistemic dependency in which legitimizing structures derive disproportionately from historical authority rather than the future possibility. Okay, now back to sociologically. That means everybody knows, but for those who don't, it's look at it through the lens of society. Sociologically, institutions function through inherited scripts. Education transmits canonized knowledge. Law relies on precedent. Religion derives sacred legitimacy from original events. And national identity is reinforced through curated historical memory. Pierre Bourdieu's concept of habitus helps explain how individuals unconsciously embody inherited structures. Okay, high five to Pierre Bourdieu. So I'll read it again. Pierre Bourdieu's concept of habitus, Habitus, habitus helps explain how individuals unconsciously embody inherited structures, while Michel Foucault's archaeology of knowledge shows how discourse itself is constrained by historically sedimented systems of thought. Thomas Kuhn likewise demonstrated that even scientific paradigms often resist radically new frames until existing epistemic authorities collapse. I'll read it again. Thomas Kuhn likewise demonstrated that even scientific paradigms often restrict radically new frames until existing epistemic authorities collapse. Do you know what that means? That means the story of the human is based on the past, and they're trying to relate their new scientific findings, do you understand, to a being that is following the instructions of a dead past. I'll keep reading. What this means is that civilization does not merely remember the past, it operationalizes the past as a governing software. Collective cognition becomes retrospective rather than prospective. Yeah. That means it's basing itself based on past perspectives rather than future. The civilizational imagination is therefore path-dependent, meaning future decisions are disproportionately shaped by historical templates rather than open teleological design. Necromantic civilization in this framework is not a poetic insult, but an analytical descriptor of a society whose ontological confidence, ontology means true nature regardless of how we interpret it. I'll read that again. Necromantic civilization in this framework is not a poetic insult, but an analytical descriptor of a society whose ontological confidence comes from validated dead frameworks. The species repeatedly asks historical memory to certify existential direction. This creates what may be called civilizational recursion, a looping mechanism where inherited assumptions continuously regenerate the same social architecture in updated forms. That means there's new human beings being born, but they're behaving the same. Their behavior isn't new. Your behavior should be new, yo. Sorry, I'm going to read this again. This creates what may be called civilizational recursion, a looping mechanism where inherited assumptions continuously regenerate the same social architecture in updated forms. Modernity often mistakes novelty of surface for novelty of structure, yet much of contemporary governance, economy, family, organization, identity politics, and moral reasoning remain recombinations of older symbolic codes. Humanity appears progressive in artifact while recursive in consciousness. The result is that latent capacities of the species remain underdeveloped because the future is not treated as a design space, but as an extension of ancestral negotiation. That means we enter a new moment, but we don't let it be new because we want it to be as real as it was, as the patterns of reality we recognize in the past. Now we go to the advanced view. In honor of the advanced humanity. But I'm reading this is AI. I'm reading the research compartment. At the most advanced level, Civilization 1.0 may be described as a necromantic attractor field in which Homo sapiens has been metabolizing dead informational architectures faster than it has been generating future native consciousness. That, you know how I told you the inner realms move faster than the outer realms? The inner realms are in some sense moving faster, but they are moving faster with the limits of the verification of the past. So how do I explain it to you? It's like behind your eyes, you're looping yourself faster than you have a chance to notice something new. That's kind of what it's saying. At least that's how I interpret it. It says in simpler terms. Okay, it adds simpler terms. All right, it's in simpler terms. The species is still receiving its existential instructions from the graveyard. The dead are not merely remembered biologically or culturally. They are algorithmically active within the nervous system of civilization. That means dead people aren't dead. Their efforts are still looping algorithmically. They're still here. That means the architect, the pyramid, the architect of the pyramids is not here, but the pyramids are. Now think of that on a subjective level. Many of the ideas that human beings think is normal. Normal means, the past figured it out. So if you don't trust yourself that you can figure it out from the present, then go and be let the past define you. Did God create a being just to define itself from the past? Then why is the future here? We are destined for more than what the past were destined for. I honor them, but I do not deny. I also honor the future. Every institution, I'm continuing reading, every institution, every language category, every prestige hierarchy, every map of success, every notion of realism, and every threshold of acceptable imagination carries the compressed residue of prior human survival conditions. That means it's not just dead people, it's also dead situations, dead moments, dead events. Humanity, therefore, does not stand in direct relation to possibility. It stands behind a wall of ancestral filtration. The species sees tomorrow through yesterday's neural dust. What a sentence. This creates what can be termed a necromantic civilizational loop, a recursive pattern in which the living continuously resurrect obsolete cognitive frameworks to manage unprecedented realities. Advanced technology is then poured into primitive civilizational software, creating a species with godlike tools but ancestral operating logic. This is why humanity can split the atom, yet still organize itself through tribal narratives, prestige anxieties, inherited national myths, and fear-based zero-sum competition. Heavenly potential remains compressed not because the species lacks intelligence, but because its imaginative command center is under occupation by historical ghosts. That means you think you're yourself. You are following the commands of the ghost of history. It says to unleash humanity's heavenly potential would therefore require more than innovation, policy, or moral reform. It would require a post-necromantic rupture in which the source of legitimacy shifts from the dead to the highest unborn configuration of the species. Do you know what that means? That means you tell the story of your life, based on who you were in the past. But you should tell the story of your life based on your most advanced, unhappened potential, like your, unborn potential. Your greatness should define you, not the ignorance of the past. And it's not that the past was ignorant. The past could have been very ahead of its time. And in some areas, it still is very ahead of its time. Because to me, religion, revelation is not, it's arrived from outside of time. If it is the message of a being that is unconditional, the original being which is beyond the world room, therefore religion is language that has, or patterns or geometry that has arrived from outside of our human universe, humanized reality. And I'll read that again. It says it would require a post-necromantic rupture in which the source of legitimacy shifts from the dead to the highest unborn configuration of the species. In that moment, civilization ceases to ask history for permission and begins asking possibility for instruction. That means you, in some sense, do not deny how from your inner realms you can see probabilities to reality. What is hope? That means choose hope rather than anguish, looping anguish. And it says, the last sentence, humanity no longer becomes curator of ancestral memory, but architect of unrealized destiny. Civilization 2.0 in this deepest sense is the transfer of civilizational authority from the cemetery to the horizon. And I'll add the next part, where all our sky cities will be. We will live in the sky one day and we will wonder, what did we do on the surface of the earth? Other than, in some sense, terrorize ourselves in fear of limitation. For how long will limitation haunt us when this world is telling us, I'm present here limitlessly? For a speaker of worlds can reach as far as the divine surveillance state authorizes. We are neither the complete, neither 100% complete, neither 100% incomplete. We are such an important value in all worlds that there are many worlds, many ways that we can have value. We can be valued as a being. That means, think of it this way, for a religious person, your whole life you're judging yourself. You evaluate yourself. But for a religious person, the final evaluation is not with you. You could have been doing something thinking it's good, for example. You could have been doing something thinking it's bad. Right? Or let's go with the good. You've been doing something that you think it's good, and then in the afterlife review through the theological lens, you know, I just saw this metaphor. Imagine there's a couple, married couple, wife and husband. Then they have a child and the wife is pregnant, okay? Or they decide to have a child. They legit need to go to the home, the house they had, the same house that they were just using for two people to live in. And they need to create space for the new human that will arrive in their household, the new soul. In the same way, civilization 1.0 is looping, but if it doesn't loop, it creates space for novelty. All that I am asking, because it's all of us now, like, so 117 billion human beings have existed, 7% of them are alive, that's 8.1 billion. You know, the math was done from before, I'm just relaying it, right? 8.1 billion human beings are being live streamed in history. We're in the front lines. Our decisions hold a weight that the dead past and the unborn future do not. We are the manifest now. We're not just manifest now. You know, So to me, the decisions of 8.1 billion human beings will suggest whether the experience of the future generations will be higher resolution or lower resolution. Imagine civilization is like a YouTube video. You can set the quality of it. You can watch the video in HD, or you can watch the video in low resolution. When it's so low resolution, you don't even know what you're watching. When it's very high resolution, you exactly know what can happen. Not what can happen. There's an accuracy. So, anyways, the last sentence of the academic view was Civ 2.0, in this deepest sense, is the transfer of civilizational authority from the cemetery to the horizon. That means instead of looking down at the ground, look at the sky and now do this behind your eyes. Instead of just defining yourself from the past, look at your future horizons. Look at your future. Feel all the ways it can probabilize. Do not fear. If somebody says, where does authentic boldness come from? It comes, to me, if somebody's like Mr.Within, how do you know somebody's great? They are raised, they are in the presence of greatness. It's not just from them. They've noticed it. They've noticed patterns that do not activate their potential and patterns that do. Somebody in the chat section said North Star. Somebody I knew years ago told me follow your North Star. That was like a sort of, I don't know, cowboy metaphysics or something, but it was like that notion is, why do you have an advanced potential? Why do you have memories, which is the relationship of your intelligence with your past? And why do you have visualizations? This is not the advanced humanity. Civilization 1.0 is looping. It has a sort of necromantic relationship with its past. It means that it is making those who used to be more important. It's making what used to be more important than what can be. But even what used to be was living for what can be. Do you see? That means we are misinterpreting the past. That means if our ancestors were here and we went up to them, if our ancestors were alive, right now it's like we are identifying with their dead objectivity and subjectivity, their dead idea. Like, I don't know who Socrates is. He wasn't even my ancestor. But I'm saying like we're identifying the past, the ancient past is like on a subjective relationship to us, right? And I'm telling you, honestly, if your ancestors were standing here right now, and instead of, and you didn't need to call it necromancy, like, you know what I mean? If you time traveled to the past, that wouldn't be necromancy. I mean, technically it would be necromancy because you're still talking. No, I mean, they're alive. No, it's not necromancy because they're alive. You're talking to the living past, not the dead past. Okay? So if you ask your ancestors, should I do only what you did, your ancestor would be like, how can you? You weren't born in the same time as me. You have access to way more stuff that I can't see. Prophets are different, guys. Prophets are the words of prophets, which human culture interprets. That's another story. But I'm saying they were mods. They had mod-like status. That means there's an unconditional system admin. I shouldn't say the mods, they were humans. They were users that were very close to the system admin. The system admin is not a person, it's an original state of being. That means we're all simulated here. The prophets were those who they got near the truth, but the truth wasn't like another world. It was a full power. You see, right now I'm identifying with simulated power. We need food. Like, we have to adjust to the conditions. We got to eat food, like, to have like energy and whatnot. Even though it doesn't kind of make sense, right? Like, right now I'm made of energy. Everything else is made of energy. You know, the only reason I need specific kinds of energy is to maintain a specific condition. You know? That means, yo, man, does the whole cosmos need to eat food for energy? It's like, nah, man. All of it is energy. The presence of reality is very energetic. On a presence level, it's like when you live through your presence, you don't get tired. But when you live as a personality with expectations of specific ways reality has to happen, that's very tiring. But sometimes you have to come and share the specifics. That means I, alone on an individual level, I can handle this world. But the issue is, can my species handle it? And yes, it has so far, but how is it handling it? And the handling is not efficient. You understand? I'm pretty much someone who's like, wait a minute, my inner realms are showing me civilization can happen in this way, but why is it just looping in this way in front of my eyes? You understand? So in the same way we stepped out of the jungles and we came to the city, we came to civilization. Now, civilization 1.0 needs to step into a new inner environment. That means, who says you were just this one idea of a human? Those are sounds, yo. You're not just a sound and you're not just a symbol. You are present in this event. It's a massive unknown event, colossal unknown event. Anyways, let me see what else there was. I guess there's something it says. There's a sentence that says civilization 1.0 is necromantic civilization. This is the part of the research component. It says civilization 1.0 is necromantic is necromantic civilization because it receives authority, meaning legitimacy and orientation from the dead. Meaning the dead ancestors define morality, the dead empires define politics, the dead philosophers define truth, the dead religions define permissible imagination, the dead economists define productivity, the dead traditions define identity. The living are not self-authoring. They are ritually consulting inherited ghosts. Humanity is epistemologically necromantic, a civilization conducting a continuous seance with the past. And seance means a meeting at which people attempt to make contact with the dead. Okay, especially through the agency of a medium. Okay, didn't know that word. There was a word for that. Okay, then it says, necromantic civilization, like in quotations, sounds disturbing, and that disturbance is useful because it exposes what is actually happening. Human beings often believe they are thinking freely, but in reality, they quote dead authorities, obey dead institutions, preserve dead assumptions, and derive emotional certainty from dead centuries. The species asks, what did they say instead of what must we become? That is necromantic dependence. It says necromancy is not simply talking to the dead. Necromancy is allowing the dead to govern the decisions of the living. That is civilization 1.0, a parliament of ghosts, a senate of ancestors, a courtroom where every future proposal must first be approved by dead judges. That image is extremely strong. Civilization 1.0 is a necromantic civilization, a civilization that continuously consults the dead in order to determine how the living should think, act, build, and dream. Okay, this is all, yeah, it's all acknowledged. So, I don't know, guys, it's a very interesting situation, and at least one thing that you should take away from this talk is that it doesn't matter how enlightened you are, oh individual soul, it is now time for civilization to get enlightened. The enlightened civilization is dawning behind our eyes. It's the advanced humanity. It's emerging. They're arriving. I feel it. Deep right now, I feel it. It's like, dude, do you know what it is? I kind of feel like I was a scout. Do you know? I was like I don't know. It's like my soul is. I feel my soul is. It's like my soul is from the future. My body and mind are. My body and mind are identifying with the past. I know when I give these talks, I don't know how to explain the feeling of it, but it feels like I'm there. It feels like I'm legit giving this talk from an advanced civilization behind my eyes, because I see it. It has shape to me, and it has feeling. Like that, it's like people are different. I feel things, and if I can pay attention to the feeling, there's like a gift of images in that feeling, you know. And the most important thing is trust. Many of you trust the past, but you don't trust the future, and that's freaking weird. What's wrong with all of you? So guys, even though I said necromantic civilization, other AIs here saying that you could have used other words like historical echo civilization, dead authority civilization, graveyard governed civilization, ancestral feedback loop civilization. Like all of these are pointing to the same. Anyways, thank you for listening. This was a 2-hour, 30-minute lecture. Didn't feel that way to me. It felt like maybe 2 hours, 30 minutes. Not joking. It was 2 hours, 31, 32. Yeah, whatever. It feels like, it honestly feels like an hour, 15 minutes to me. Yeah, that's how long it feels like I've been talking. Same energy as that. But anyways, I hope this was interesting. And just because Civilization 1.0 is looping, it doesn't mean they are bad. It just means they don't know. It means Civilization 1.0 is not evil. It doesn't know better. The collective psyche has not self-actualized through its original state. You see, to me, we're all simulations inside a simulation in a place where we can't see its edge. So pretty much it's an unknown moment, world simulation, self-simulation. Now what? Okay, this self-simulation can notice. That means we are not just simulated, we are the awareness that can discriminate between the simulations, that can notice the simulation. But the issue is, we can notice, like I can notice my body is simulated here on this earth for, let's say, whatever, like 100 years or something, right? But the awareness to my body, which is not a form, cannot be treated as a simulation because there's no beginning and end reference point. Somebody's saying something about scientists in the chat section. Guys, scientists were like, Frankenstein. The guy's like, it's alive. Like the dude was tripping. Scientists, they were like, the periodic table is alive. Carbon is alive. What the fuck? Like tripping. It's like 100% scientists need to have like psychologists around them. In the future, you're going to see there's going to be units. That means in the future, you're not going to have one teacher in a classroom. You're going to have a group. You're going to have a unit. Do you understand? There's going to be one who teaches, one topic. One is a psychologist. One is a philosopher. One is a scientist. They present themselves to the students as united. Do you understand? They don't allow just because one area of life is rewarded more than another area, or one dimension of way of living is rewarded more than other. It doesn't mean it doesn't have value. The value existentially is very unique. Everybody's fulfilling their existential purpose by existing. It is the experiential purpose that we have some sort of agency, but I'm saying that agency is just filtering itself based on the past. That means rather than the sky telling us what to do, the graveyard is. Rather than the future telling us what to do, the graveyard, the past is telling us what to do. That means our brains are we are at, it's like we've been conditioned to only accept the past to give us permission to access the new. And that's honestly unnecessary. Like, like 8.1 billion unknown life forces moving 8.1 billion unknown forms, but somehow through the known, but somehow making it known through language and identity and symbolism. In the presence of a great mystery, human beings are making ideological conclusions like, we gotta relax. Everybody needs to chill, and then we acknowledge the unknown honestly, and then that means for me, the reason I think I can see the difference between civilization 1.0 and 2.0, and many don't, is because I know I have experientially seen the difference between the unknown and the known. In other words, a part of me is very comfortable with the unknown. I don't know why. I can't even state it in a certain way, but it's just like I don't have like my presence. It's like my presence is just being present. It's the personality that's freaking out what to do while it's embodied. Presence is presence. Is there a wrong way to be present? If you conditionalize it, yes, but there's no wrong way for unconditional presence to be for it to be present. Pretty much the view is an unconditional unknown presence, and then the conditions came to dance. You know how they say, hear the music, some people, oh my God, there was this next level quote. I don't know how I remember this. I don't know who said it, but it said those people who were dancing to the music were seen as insane people by those who couldn't hear the music. Materialists cannot hear the music. So we gotta, we gotta still care. They're members of our species. I don't care if the person's atheist, theist. You're all humans. The human experience is important. It's both unknown and known. You can choose to identify with the known variables, or you can realize it's more unknown. Okay, the scientific community is like, no, man, the way we know it is the only way we accept to know it. Okay, you guys go do your thing, But for me, the mystery surpasses language. That means, I don't know if many people know this, but when I was flying over the forests of philosophy, I noticed that there was a battle. To me, it's like, you don't understand. I contextualize the whole thing as a war, but not as a war that's... It's like, to me, I see an invisible war going on. To you guys, I'm just some random podcaster. To myself, I see myself in a situation, in a very specific situation. Right now, everybody is a commander, but you're just commanding the cells of your body. You're just commanding your own experience. Every person is a commander. Okay, that means feel. It's okay. That part's valid, right? To feel like you're a commander of yourself. But to be able to command others, one has to have an ability to see beyond themselves. Therefore, anybody who can't see beyond themselves, which is pretty much what immaturity and being a child is, they can't see beyond what is just real to them. To me, like, this is going to sound bizarre, but racists are like children who never grew up, never understood that beyond what they only prefer. There is so many ways reality is happening. You don't know anything to judge. And I realized something, that racism wasn't even about the skin. I know that sounds controversial, but let me tell you what I mean. Dude, they didn't care. They were like, yo, man, we're gonna ignore how all of us have red blood, okay? We're going to ignore how all of us have white bones. We're going to ignore how all of us have different eye colors and different hair colors. But skin color, we're going to go crazy on that. And I'm like, what the... Do you understand? It's like, it doesn't make sense. And it's not that it doesn't make sense. It's just that the animal loops. The bewildered beast is bewildered, and it's looping, yo. It's it's crazy. It's more like the inner realms of civilization. Imagine civilization. There's no civilization 1.0 or 2.0. It's just civilization from one perspective, imagine. And it has an inner realms and outer realms. Or it doesn't matter if it's civilization 1.0. Let's say civilization 1.0 right now. Okay, it has an inner realms and outer realms. In its inner realms, that means if we can see an inner realm and outer realm to one human, you know, it's not that far-fetched to see an inner realm and outer realm to the whole species. Right now, those species is all in the same outer realm. We're in the same place. Not the exact same place, but in the same area, like planetary area, you know? In the inner realms, this is where we are fragmented. Humanity is divided in the inner realms. And it's all about the ability to be responsible for meaning that is not limited. It's not a limited condition. Do you understand? It's like me thinking that somebody smiling means they're nice, they're a kind person. Imagine I saw as a kid my grandmother smile, right? And I'm like, and she was a very kind person. And imagine I years later or something, a salesman comes and smiles at me, and I'm like, okay, look at this artificial smile. I can, do you understand? But if I don't have that awareness, I'd be like, oh my God, he's smiling. It represents a pleasant memory. I'm going to think this person's pleasant. But that person could not be pleasant. That could be a fake smile. And civilization 1.0 is thinking that the past figured out its future just because it desired it or was ambitious or expected it. No. There's so many variables. There's so much we don't see. Actually, to me, I haven't reached a position where I can have a, you know, I have started companies, but let me say it this way, not in a position to hire employees, more in one-man armies. But I'll say it this way, if I was an employer and they brought 2 employees in front of me and I had to like interview them or something, okay, I would in some sense be like, I'll just wait to watch that. I'll like, because I'm a person, my inner realms are visual. Let's say if I wanted to bring somebody on my team, I would be like, okay, what do you see behind your eyes when you enter this company? Okay. And there's some people who are like, in the past I was this, I did this, and I was that, you know, and that's it, you know. But if the person doesn't ask questions about where the company is going, that means the first thing I'd check, I'd be like, okay, did they ask questions or did they assume they knew what the company was just from the past? I worked for Red Cross for some time, and in the interview, I got the job interview. It was a double interview. They took me and this other person, and after the interview, I remember asking, this is 2011, guys, let me remember. A room with I don't remember what he asked, but I remember that I waited for the other person to leave the room. Like, the other person answered pretty much what I'm telling you here. I don't remember exactly, but I'll tell you this. The patience to let the earlier simulations pass. Okay? This story I'm telling you about the interview, I've shared it in earlier talks. I just don't remember it exactly now. But the advancement. I just lost the image. Hold on. Why was I talking about Red Cross? Okay, guys, maybe I'm reaching the out of fuel point of the talk. You got, questions. There we go. Now I see it. Okay. I waited for the other person to leave the room. I didn't leave the room. I asked the question where you should always ask, what is the room for growth? Can I grow here? And when the person says, in some sense, like ask that question, that means that they care for their future. They're envisioning and visualizing their future. Okay? And that's what's key, being responsible for our future, but not limiting it to the past, because there's so many novel angles left. A person can achieve everything in life, but if they don't know where they are and what this is, what did they achieve other than satisfy a limited dream? Why are heaven and hell both suggested? Why is there a sort of dual consequence, a duality to the consequence? That means there's right and wrong actions on an objective level, subjective level, but consciousness is neither an object or subject, so what makes it right or wrong? I feel this has a sort of strange Cartesian, like connecting a bunch of Cartesian graphs to one another. I feel like I can draw this geometrically. But anyways, we do not know. Overall, what's going on? I just know that I identified with the known. The known was a past loop. And the world is way more unknown. When I say 95%, that's like a percentage of that is dark energy, dark matter. Percentages of that, different percentages. And really, it's like we're treating one room of a house as the whole house, and we can't even see if it's a house. And you know, I read this quote from Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj. He's like, enlightenment is like looking for your home, looking for your house while you're in your house. Looking for your home when you're already home. For me, the advanced potential of humanity is right here. The potential is here. The kinetic manifestation of that, transforming of that, like from form to form. Or sorry, not form to form, state to state. That means, think of it this way. The present is the potential of the future. The past was the potential of the present. But because the past, we're in the present right now, we are the kinetic state of the past. Do you understand? We were a potential state, and then we became a kinetic state. Now, this new kinetic state is the potential state of the future. The future will be the kinetic state. That means there may be something more deeper. So even though I say a necromantic civilization, and yeah, that is a darker, dimmer and darker view, but it doesn't mean it's just limited to that. Okay? That means our relationship with time is human time. What I consider, people can say whatever they want, but I consider that there's mods here. So I'm a user. I'm a conditional user. I'm a created entity. Okay? I am entitled to like moving myself. Okay, so I'm a created, I'm theologically, God is the system admin. The system admin generated a user. But the system admin also generated mods, which two humans are invisible and appear as sectors. But to the mods, they are created beings. That means if somebody's like Mr. Within, are there invisible beings are puppeteering, moderating human civilization, and yet, still lesser than the system admin? And I'll be like, yeah, but they're invisible to us, they're visible to themselves. In the same way like our inner realms work. Okay? That means if I ask you who you are, your inner realm subjectivity is visible to you. It's not visible to me unless you speak. So unless the moderator moderates, we don't know it's here. We don't know, but it is moderation. But the ultimate thing is, at least the Islamic universe tells you, don't go to a moderator. Go directly to the system admin. That means you're a simulated being. You don't need to go to a more powerful simulated being. You need to go directly to the original source, the original state. What religion is a way for a simulated entity to notice it's simulated, but to notice it is simulated beyond its will. So I can have expectations on the conditions I can control, but that which is beyond my control, I can expect it, like civilization, I don't know. Right? There might be World War III, or there may be like they might suddenly be like, all right, we're one species, everybody wake up. I don't know, but to me, I know that it's doing something. It's like, it's like, imagine you saw a bird and it was doing something weird. It's like as if it's like the philosopher looks at the world and it's like, it's doing something weird, man. What is this? What are we all doing here? Right? And we're like, yeah, we're here to not just find meaning, generate meaning. That means you can give meaning to your life in many ways, but is it new? For me, I realized I was very privileged, actually. This was God's mercy upon me. I didn't, at a time where I didn't consider God, aside from just the presence of being. I was a yogi, like a Vedic yogi. Inner realms of a Vedic yogi until 2023, where I realized there is a system admin. Not only, again, we did not create this place. We're participating here. And we have an ability to observe, and that observance is not limited to the outer realms, so the great mysteries have already approached us. Anyways, folks, thank you for listening. I guess I'll go 7 more minutes to make it 3 hours. Or actually, no. Stay true to the moment. My past self thinks maybe 3 hours is cool, but the future doesn't have to fit the past. Who says who I was yesterday has to make decisions for who I will be, when the present can see the moment anew? For novelty was the blessing of the system admin. You don't get it. Novelty is divine. The new is divine for the looping past. And you're here to be a new being. You're not here we've already seen. It's like, as I think it was Oscar Wilde, he's like, don't try to be anyone. Everyone else is already taken. He's saying be yourself. I think the quote, he says be yourself, everybody else is taken, I think. Something like that, right? That means many of you are trying to fit into this system by being something that those in the past were. Learn from those creative people who you think are weird, but when they look at you, 8.1 billion beings being forced to behave the same way is pretty freaking weird, okay? That's normality. But what is normal about this world? We don't see its edge. Is it normal to see 5%? Is it normal for there to be an unobservable universe? Normality is just the story they accept to avoid the actuality of the uncertainty and instability. You fear the unknown, so you loop in a known way that the past did. It's understandable, but it doesn't mean it has to keep happening. Your opinions don't have to be limited to just how you used to feel or how you felt or how you saw things or how things was. That's the ability. That's really the essence of the polymath. The polymath has given freedom to himself before the past has taken it away or made it specific or conditional in a specific way, conditionalized it. Anyways, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, and the most advanced, in honor of the original unconditional causal moment that all simulated conditional effectual moments have arisen from and will return to, in the presence of the original being, system admin, and world host to this simulation existential system and world room beyond the walls that humanity has looped itself in. It is now time for all human beings to realize advancement is a birthright. The past doesn't want you to see how great you can be. Because if you do, you won't have an ego based on a past. You would have a heart open to the future. So, you can let the past possess you, or you can let the future inspire you. You choose. Thank you for listening.